Ciliates, when you see the paramecium, because that's the common one that I'm thinking about, when you see him, there is a cell membrane. But on the outside of the cell membrane is a pretty tough layer made of protein, and it's called the pellicle. From the pellicle, the cilia extend all the way around the paramecium. Now, when you look at it, and again, I'm going to show you a picture, there is a little depression, a little dip in the pellicle on one side of the body of the paramecium, and that's called an oral groove. Now, oral groove, oral, means mouth, and groove just means a little depression in that pellicle. The oral groove has cilia lined with it. So the way that these animals eat, they have to be able to filter food from their surroundings. So cilia actually have two functions. It's going to help them in movement, but with the paramecium, it's also going to aid in feeding. So these cilia are lining this oral groove, and what they do, of course, they're in water, they're aquatic, they beat, and as they beat, the water pushes into the oral groove, and the opening is actually called a mouth pore. So any food that is in the water, the cilia are going to beat back and forth, and they're going to push the food into the mouth pore. Once it goes into the mouth pore, there's going to be this sac, and the sac is called the gullet. And actually, it's just a space where the food gets pushed into from the mouth pore, and from the gullet, the end of the gullet forms what's called a food vacuole. And the food vacuole contain these digestive enzymes, these proteins that allow the paramecium to digest its food. And then any undigested materials are going to exit through what is called an anal pore. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but this is a big deal. In order for an organism to have an intake, which would be the mouth pore, and an exit, which would be the anal pore, is a big deal, because the type of digestion that these smaller organisms, these microscopic organisms undergo is really very simple. And all he can do is filter feed. He's actually what's considered to be a filter feeder, because he is moving this cilia back and forth in his aquatic environment. And some of these lakes and streams, they may not have running water. They may not really be that active, where the water would come in through the mouth pore. So he moves his cilia back and forth at the oral groove, pushes that water and any little food particles with it, bacteria, algae, into the mouth pore, which pushes it into this sac-like gullet. At the end of the gullet, there's going to be a food vacuole that the food gets digested in. So we have little food vacuoles. We didn't talk about them too much in our cells, but the food vacuoles have these powerful proteins, the digestive enzymes in them, and they're going to digest his food. Now, any undigested food has got to be expelled from the body, and that's going to be through their anal pore. So that's the way filter feeders work. In their environment, they have to have some sort of movement to push the food into their bodies, and then there has to be a method to get rid of their waste.